Every town has its secrets, and the small village of Elderglen was no exception. Nestled at the edge of a vast and ancient forest, the villagers lived simple lives, tending to their fields and families, always mindful of the woods that loomed at their doorstep. The Whispering Woods, they called it, a place shrouded in mystery, where the trees seemed to murmur to one another, and strange lights danced between the trunks on moonless nights. No one in Elderglen ventured into the forest after dusk. The stories of those who had dared were enough to keep even the bravest souls at bay. Some said the woods were enchanted, others believed they were cursed, but all agreed that the forest held secrets best left undisturbed. Yet, as is often the case with such places, the woods held a magnetic allure, especially for those with a curious heart. And so, it was no surprise that one day, a traveler arrived in Elderglen, drawn by the tales of the Whispering Woods. This traveler was unlike any the villagers had seen before. He was tall and slender, with a cloak as dark as night and eyes that gleamed with a sharp intelligence. He called himself Alaric and claimed to be a scholar of ancient lore, a seeker of lost knowledge. The villagers were wary of him, as they were of all outsiders, but Alaric was polite and patient, and soon enough, they began to trust him, though they never stopped warning him about the dangers of the woods. But Alaric was undeterred. He had traveled far and wide, through lands where the skies were red and the rivers flowed with gold, but nothing had fascinated him as much as the Whispering Woods. He spent his days gathering information from the villagers, poring over old maps, and studying the local legends. And as the days turned into weeks, he became more and more certain that the key to unlocking the forest's secrets lay within its deepest, darkest heart. One crisp autumn morning, when the mist hung low over the fields and the trees were ablaze with color, Alaric set out for the woods. The villagers watched him go with a mixture of fear and resignation, knowing that their warnings had fallen on deaf ears. Alaric, however, felt nothing but anticipation as he crossed the threshold into the Whispering Woods. The forest was silent, save for the occasional rustle of leaves or the distant call of a bird. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves, and the path ahead was barely visible beneath the fallen foliage. Alaric walked with purpose, his boots crunching softly on the ground, his eyes scanning the shadows for any sign of the mysteries he sought. Hours passed, and the forest seemed to close in around him, the trees growing taller and more twisted, their branches forming a dense canopy overhead. The light grew dim, and Alaric felt the first stirrings of unease. He had expected the journey to be challenging, but now he realized just how disorienting the forest could be. The path seemed to twist and turn back on itself, leading him in circles, and more than once he felt as though he was being watched by unseen eyes. But Alaric was not one to be easily deterred. He pressed on, following his instincts and the faint whispers that seemed to drift on the breeze. It was late afternoon when he finally stumbled upon something out of the ordinary, a small clearing, bathed in the last rays of the setting sun, with a single, ancient oak standing in its center. The oak was unlike any tree Alaric had ever seen. Its trunk was massive, gnarled with age, and its branches stretched high into the sky, their leaves shimmering with a faint, ethereal light. But what truly caught Alaric's attention was the hollow at the base of the tree, a dark, narrow opening that seemed to beckon him closer. With a mixture of excitement and trepidation, Alaric approached the tree. As he drew near, he noticed strange markings carved into the bark, symbols and runes that he recognized from his studies of ancient texts. They spoke of protection, of binding, and of sealing away something powerful. But what, exactly, had been sealed away? Without a second thought, Alaric crouched down and peered into the hollow. The darkness within was absolute, but he could sense a faint, pulsating energy emanating from the depths. It was as though the tree itself was alive, guarding whatever lay hidden inside. Alaric knew he was on the verge of a great discovery, but he also knew that he was venturing into unknown territory. With a deep breath, he reached into his pack and pulled out a small, flickering lantern. Lighting it, he carefully stepped into the hollow, feeling the rough bark against his shoulders as he squeezed through the narrow opening. The passage was tight and winding, and Alaric had to move slowly to avoid scraping his hands and knees on the jagged walls. The air grew cooler as he descended, and the faint sound of dripping water echoed through the tunnel. But Alaric pressed on, driven by the promise of knowledge and the thrill of the unknown. After what felt like an eternity, the tunnel widened, and Alaric emerged into a vast underground chamber. The lantern's light barely reached the edges of the cavern, but Alaric could make out the faint outlines of pillars and statues, long forgotten and covered in a thick layer of dust and moss. In the center of the chamber stood a stone pedestal, and on it lay a small, intricately carved box. The box was made of a dark wood that seemed to absorb the light, and it was covered in the same runes that Alaric had seen on the tree above. His heart quickened as he approached the pedestal, his fingers trembling with anticipation. With a deep breath, Alaric reached out and touched the box. The moment his fingers brushed the surface, a low hum filled the air, and the runes on the box began to glow with a soft, golden light. Alaric hesitated, but his curiosity got the better of him. He slowly lifted the lid, revealing a small, crystalline orb nestled inside. The orb was no larger than a marble, but it radiated a powerful energy that seemed to pulse in time with Alaric's heartbeat. As he stared into its depths, he saw images, flashes of a time long past, of a great battle between light and darkness, of heroes and villains, and of a powerful force that had been sealed away to protect the world. Alaric's mind raced as he tried to comprehend what he was seeing. The orb was a fragment of that power, a key to unlocking the secrets of the past. But as he reached out to take it, the cavern trembled, and a voice echoed through the chamber. Beware, seeker of knowledge. The past is not always what it seems, and the truth may bring more danger than you can imagine. Alaric froze, his hand hovering above the orb. The voice was ancient, filled with wisdom and warning. He knew he had to be careful, but the temptation was too great. With a determined resolve, he grasped the orb and lifted it from the box. The moment he did, the chamber erupted in a blinding light, and the ground shook violently. The statues around him began to crumble, and the air filled with the sound of whispers, ancient voices, speaking in a language long forgotten. Alaric stumbled back, clutching the orb tightly, as the cavern began to collapse around him. With a surge of adrenaline, he turned and sprinted back towards the tunnel, the walls crumbling behind him. The whispers grew louder, almost deafening, as if the forest itself was crying out in protest. But Alaric didn't stop. He could see the faint light of the lantern at the end of the tunnel, his only guide. Through the chaos, just as he reached the entrance, the ground gave way beneath him, and he tumbled out of the hollow, landing hard on the forest floor. Gasping for breath, he looked up to see the ancient oak shuddering, its branches twisting and writhing as if in pain. The whispers had stopped, replaced by a deep, resonant silence. Alaric slowly rose to his feet, his body aching from the fall. The orb was still clutched in his hand, its light dimmed but still present. He knew he had uncovered something incredible, something that could change everything. But he also knew that the price of his discovery was higher than he had anticipated. With a heavy heart, Alaric made his way back through the forest, the weight of the orb in his hand serving as a constant reminder of the power he now held. The journey back to Elderglen was long and difficult, but Alaric was determined to return to the village and share what he had learned. As he emerged from the forest, the villagers were there to greet him, their faces filled with a mixture of relief and fear. They could see the change in Alaric, the knowledge and burden he now carried. But Alaric reassured them that the forest's secrets were safe, for now. In the days that followed, Alaric continued his studies, delving deeper into the mysteries of the orb and the ancient past it contained. He knew that his journey was far from over, that there were still more questions to be answered and more dangers to face. But he was ready, for he had seen the truth of the Whispering Woods and knew that it was only the beginning. And so, the legend of the Whispering Woods lived on, a tale of curiosity, bravery, and the endless pursuit of knowledge. But it was also a cautionary tale, a reminder that some secrets are best left buried, and that the past can be a dangerous thing to uncover. If you enjoyed this journey through the Whispering Woods, please like this video and share it with others who love a good mystery. Don't forget to subscribe to Tales of Wisdom, and hit the bell icon to stay updated on more stories that will take you to the edge of your imagination.